Is it still in the board? Cipher, is it still? I need you to check the board before you say anything else, please. I've been staring at the input levels for 10 minutes, and I don't trust my own eyes right now.
I've checked it 4 times since last week. It's clean. Every channel cold, nothing keyed in. Whatever that was, it isn't sitting inside our equipment waiting. It came in once, said what it came to say, and left. I need you to hear that I've said this 4 times this week, and I still don't fully believe it saying it a 5th time. I want to tell you both what this week has actually been like, because I think you deserve to know it wasn't research. Not at first. The first 2 days were just flinching. Every hum of the equipment, every crackle before the frequency settles, I heard that voice in it. I'd catch myself holding my breath before every broadcast test, waiting for something else to answer back.
Same. I slept maybe 9 hours across 4 nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. She said no because she met me, and I'd be awake doing the same arithmetic I'd already done 6 times that day. Who is she? Who is me? What does met mean exactly in a sentence spoken by something that came through our own board?
We're still here. Don't touch your dial. Whatever this becomes tonight, we're still here, and so, apparently, are you, since you found the frequency again. Thank you for that. I don't say it enough. Every week, we ask you to trust 2 voices you've never seen, on a broadcast we can no longer promise is entirely what it appears to be. And every week, enough of you come back that this still means something. That still matters to me, more than I probably show on air.
It matters to both of us. I want that said plainly before we get into tonight's map, because after everything that's happened these past 2 weeks, I think we've been so focused on the mysteries that we haven't said clearly enough how much the 2 of us depend on you still being out there. Every warning we give only works because someone's listening for it. Every name we read only matters because someone's hearing it. You're not passive in this. You never have been.
This is the Veiled Signal, 25th transmission. My name, for the purposes of this broadcast, is Cipher, and beside me tonight, actually beside me, in the room, which after last week I no longer take for granted, is Ren.
I'm here. We're both here. And we spent this week doing something we've never done before, chasing a voice instead of a name. 24 broadcasts, and we've spent them tracing sectors, tracing hardware, tracing an archivist who turned out to be watching from 11 blocks away with a warm cup of tea. This week we traced something that doesn't have an address, something that comes and goes through equipment we thought we understood, says exactly 1 sentence, and vanishes before we can ask it anything at all.
If you're new tonight, I want to be honest about what you're walking into, because I think that honesty matters more with every week that passes. This broadcast began as sector warnings and names read aloud. It has become something stranger, a network built by a person we've never met, for reasons we're still uncovering, now apparently watched by a second person, from inside the very regime we exist to resist, who spends favors on individual lives like a rationed currency. I don't fully understand what we're part of anymore. I want to say that plainly at the top of every broadcast now, because I think pretending otherwise would be its own kind of lie. What I do understand is that the warnings are still true, the names still matter, and you're still listening. That's enough to keep going on. It has to be, because it's what we have. Quickly tonight, because the map isn't where the story is, but it never stops mattering just because something louder is happening. Sectors 9 and 22, clear skies, holding steady, contacts confirmed within the day. 14, still clear skies on paper, but the listening habit surveys we warned you about last week have expanded to 2 more buildings, and the questions have gotten slightly more specific. Not just what do you listen to now, but who visits you in the evenings. If you're there, you already know what to say. Nothing. You read. Nobody visits. Keep it boring, keep it identical every time you're asked. 3 and 31 remain storm warning. Contacts thin but alive. We got 2 check-ins this week instead of the usual 4, and we're choosing to read that as caution rather than the alternative, because the alternative isn't useful to think about right now. 12. The upgrade cruise finished 2 days ago, ahead of the pattern we warned you about. Faster than Vashon, faster than 18. We don't yet know what that means. Faster completion could mean a smaller target area, or it could mean they're simply getting more efficient at this with practice. We're watching, and we'll tell you the moment we know more. 7, 18, 26. No change on paper. But everything about 7 reads differently to us now than it did 2 weeks ago, and we'll get to why in a moment because it connects directly to what happened at the end of last week's broadcast. I'll say this much before we move on. We used to worry about 7 the way you worry about someone in danger. Now we worry about them the way you worry about someone whose safety depends entirely on a stranger's continued goodwill, which is a different, colder kind of worry, and I don't think it gets easier with practice.
Here's what we know, and it isn't much, so I'll say it plainly and slowly, because it took us 6 days to say it plainly to ourselves. Whatever spoke through our board last week did not come in through any channel the archivist built. We checked every relay signature, every frequency marker, every piece of the intrusion against the archive we now have sitting in this room. 411 pages of the archivist's own handwriting, and none of it matches. The archivist's fingerprints are all over this network's infrastructure. Every tower, every backup route, every dead drop. None of them were on that intrusion. It used something else entirely. A carrier signal buried inside standard Dominion emergency broadcast infrastructure. The same category of system that runs the friction layer. The same one behind phase architecture itself. We traced the signature back 3 separate times, hoping for a different answer each time. We got the same answer 3 times, which means whoever spoke to us has access to Dominion signal infrastructure. Real access. Not stolen for one use, not a single breach. The kind of access that requires standing inside the system, trusted for years, with clearance that doesn't get handed out casually to anyone the regime doesn't fully trust.
So we asked the only question that made sense afterward, and we asked it more than once. At 2 in the morning, staring at each other across this desk like the answer might be written on the wall behind one of us. If someone with that kind of access wanted to hurt us, they wouldn't need to speak at all. They wouldn't need theater. They'd have simply told the people who round up names like ours where to find this room, and we would already be gone, and none of you would ever have heard from us again. Instead, they said one sentence about a woman who said no to joining our network before it existed. That's not a threat. That doesn't read like a threat under any interpretation we tried. That reads like a signature, like someone announcing themselves the only way they safely can. Someone inside the machine is telling us they've been shaping outcomes from within it, quietly, selectively. And they wanted us to know it, specifically, this week, right after we discovered we were cast rather than founded. The timing isn't a coincidence. Nothing about this network has ever been a coincidence.
Which brought us back to 7. I know we've said this before, but it needs saying again, plainly, in light of what we now understand. Because I think some of you have been sitting with the same question we have for weeks without either of us naming it directly. 7 has been inside Sector 7 since it supposedly went dark, back in our very first broadcast. Untouched, unexplained. We've called it strange for a month and left it there, because we didn't have anywhere better to put it. Every other operative in a fully compliant sector goes quiet within days. We've documented it now across 4 sectors, Vashon, 18, 26, and the pattern holds every single time. Days, not weeks. 7 never did. 7 is still there, still transmitting, Still exactly 7. Over a month passed when the pattern says they should have gone quiet like everyone else. What if that was never luck? What if someone inside the machine decided, deliberately, specifically, that 7 doesn't get taken, and has been quietly making sure of it every single day since, at a cost we can't calculate and 7 may not even know about? If that's true, someone has been curating who survives contact with this network. Not everyone, some, and we have no idea what determines the list.
A short field report tonight from Contact 12. She asked us to keep it brief, and given everything she told us about her own circumstances last week, we understand exactly why time is something she doesn't have much of to spare. We're honoring that request completely. This is shorter than usual, and we're not padding it with our own commentary before you hear it. Here it is, exactly as she sent it. Quick update, because I don't have long tonight, and I want to be careful with the time I do have. R came by again. 3rd visit in 3 weeks, which is faster than her usual rhythm. The first 2 visits were a month apart, and now this. This time, she didn't ask questions at all. She just told me the community center has extended evening hours now, and that attendance is being tracked for a wellness initiative. Tracked. She used that word like it was a comfort, like I should feel looked after by the fact of being counted. And maybe she believes that. I think that might be the worst part of all of this. I think she genuinely believes it. I think the window is closing. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to send these, and I want that said plainly rather than buried in the middle of a report, because I don't want my last transmission to be one where I didn't say the true thing clearly. But I want to report one strange thing before I go, because I think it matters more than my own situation right now. 2 buildings over, a man named Costa was flagged in the same outreach sweep as Hana was, weeks ago. Same pattern exactly. Visited, assessed, a report filed noting his isolation, his routines, who he speaks to. I saw the visit happen. I watched it from my window, the same way I watched R visit Hana. He should have vanished within the week. Everyone the sweep flags does. I've watched it happen 4 times now. Always the same window, always within 7 to 9 days. He didn't. It's been 3 weeks. He's still there. Still exactly himself as far as I can tell. Cautious, sharp, still nods to me on the stairs the same way he always has. Same person he's always been. Nothing about him reads different. And nothing about his circumstances explains why he's still here. I don't understand why. I wanted you to know because I think you might. And because after everything you told us last week about the voice in your equipment, I have a guess I don't want to say out loud, in case saying it makes it less true. Contact 12. Transmission ends. Costa. Flagged and skipped. That's the 3rd one now, if you count 7 and count what the voice told us about the 8th candidate. A pattern of exceptions, cut into an otherwise perfect system that has, in every other instance we've documented, run with total consistency. Someone is spending something. Access, risk, maybe their own safety, maybe more than we can guess, to keep specific people off a list they were already on. And I keep thinking about the word 12 used. Tracked. As if the outreach program sees itself as care. As if somewhere inside that machine, someone genuinely believes they're doing something kind. Which makes the exceptions even stranger to sit with. If the system believes itself benevolent, then whoever is quietly overriding it isn't fighting cruelty exactly. They're fighting a kindness that happens to end in disappearance. That's a much harder thing to resist from the inside than simple malice would be. 2 names tonight. Short, because the shape of this list is changing, and I want to sit with that honestly before it grows again next week, as it always does. Farid Nasser, 49. a pharmacist who noticed medication shortages appearing in precise patterns, always in buildings that had recently been surveyed for the outreach program, always the same categories of medication, always timed to arrive right after a survey team's visit. He documented 3 months of it before he sent it to us, careful and methodical, the way people are when they've decided something matters enough to risk. He reported it 11 days ago. Gone within the week, exactly on schedule, exactly as the pattern predicts. No exception made for him at all. Lucia Bergman, 31. She helped Contact 12 distribute early sector warnings on paper, hand to hand, in 14, back before this network even had a name for what it was doing. She was flagged in the same sweep as Costa, the same week, the same team, the same clipboard probably. Unlike Costa, she's gone. Same program, same sector, same week almost, same list, same sweep. One kept, one taken. We don't know why either decision was made, only that a decision was made at all. Which is worse, somehow, than a system with no mercy in it whatsoever. A machine with no mercy is at least consistent. A machine, or a person, that spares one and takes the other requires a reason we don't have access to. And not having access to it is its own particular kind of unbearable. Farid Nasser, Lucia Bergman. We will not let them disappear twice. And to anyone listening who worked alongside either of them, who knew them before any of this, before sectors and outreach programs and clipboards, we'd like to hear about who they were, not just what happened to them. This list has always been more than a record of endings. If you have a memory worth adding, the secondary channel is open, with tonight's caution in mind.
Quick update on something we promised last week. We said we'd start looking for the 8th candidate, the one person in the casting folder who said no before this network existed. I want to be honest about where that search stands, because promising progress we don't have would be exactly the kind of comfortable lie we keep telling you not to accept from anyone else. We have almost nothing. The casting folder gave us 6 other names, all confirmed, all accounted for. 5 of us still active in this network, 1 who didn't survive the first year, whose name I'm not going to say tonight because we haven't cleared it with the people who love them. The 8th file was the one withheld. No name, no description, nothing except the index card confirming she exists and that she said no. We've spent this week trying to work backward from the recruitment pattern instead. If we know how the other 7 were approached, maybe we can identify who else fits the profile and was approached around the same window 3 years ago and simply never joined anything afterward. It's slow work. It's the kind of work that takes months, possibly longer than this network has left, whatever that number turns out to be. But we're doing it. If you were approached about something strange 3 years ago, a resistance network, a mysterious opportunity, an invitation that felt too perfectly timed to your own frustrations, and you said no, and you're listening right now, we're not asking you to say yes now. We're asking you to reach out, carefully, through the secondary channel, with the new contact warning in mind. We think you might understand something none of the rest of us can see.
And if the 4th voice already knows who she is, which I suspect he does given how he introduced himself, then this search may be entirely unnecessary from his perspective. But we don't have his channel. We only have yours. So we're asking the only way we know how. Here's where we've landed, provisionally. And I want to stress provisionally. We've been wrong about the shape of this before, badly wrong. And I'd rather say that out loud than pretend tonight's theory is more solid than it is. We think there are 2 forces operating around this network, not one. And we've been treating them as a single mystery for weeks because it was simpler to hold one confusing thing than 2. The archivist, who built us, who watches from 11 blocks away with a warm cup of tea and a tick beside every broadcast we've ever made, who has never harmed anyone we know of, and has repeatedly kept us alive with information that turned out true. And now this. A second presence, inside the regime itself, making individual, costly choices to spare specific people. 7. Costa, the 8th candidate, and who knows how many others we haven't identified yet, while leaving the machine around them fully intact and running exactly as designed. Not a resistance, not a defector announcing themselves and walking away from their post. Someone who stays exactly where they are, inside the thing we're fighting, and spends their position sparingly on people they've apparently chosen to protect for reasons that aren't visible to us yet. Mercy with a budget. That's the only language I have for it, and I've been turning that phrase over for days trying to find a better one.
And the hardest part to sit with, the part I keep coming back to at night. Lucia wasn't spared. Fareed wasn't spared. If this person is choosing, actively, deliberately, they're also, by definition, choosing who isn't worth the cost of saving. Every choice to protect one person is, somewhere in the same ledger, a choice not to protect someone else. Every name we read tonight might be someone he decided not to save. Not couldn't, decided. I don't know if that makes him better than the machine he's part of, or exactly the same kind of thing wearing a kinder face. A machine that takes everyone is monstrous in a way you can at least name cleanly. A person who saves some and lets the rest go is something else, and I don't have a clean word for what that something else is.
Guidance, briefly, because we're low on safe airtime and the practical still matters more than our theories. Everything from the last 2 weeks stands. Paper records, anchor relationships, boring answers to curious questions. Nothing networked that doesn't have to be. Add this and hold on to it. If you or someone you know is flagged by an outreach visit and survives past the usual week, don't assume you're safe. Assume you were chosen by someone for reasons you may never learn, and that the choosing could stop at any moment without warning. Stay just as careful, maybe more, not less, because complacency is exactly what a spared person is most likely to feel, and exactly what this network exists to warn you against.
One more thing before we move on, because it arrived this afternoon and it belongs in tonight's broadcast more than anywhere else. 7 sent a message, short, unlike their usual reports, and I think that brevity is the point.
Go ahead. Read it.
It says, I heard what you played last week. I don't know if it's talking about me. I don't know if I want it to be. Either answer changes how I understand every day I've survived here, and I'm not ready for either one yet. Keep broadcasting. I'll keep listening. That's all I can offer right now. That's the whole message. Cipher. Imagine finding out the reason you're alive might be a stranger's private decision, made without your knowledge, that could be revoked at any moment for reasons you'll never be told. I don't know how 7 is still functioning inside that sector carrying that thought alone.
I don't either. But they are. And that has to count for something, even if we don't yet know what. I want to say something to 7 directly, in case tonight's broadcast reaches them before we can send anything through the usual channels. 7. You don't owe anyone an answer to the question you're carrying. Not us, not the voice, not yourself, not tonight. Some questions don't need resolving to keep living with. You've proven that for a month now, whether or not you realize it. Keep listening. That's enough. It's always been enough. A few messages tonight, quickly, because you keep asking sharper questions than we sometimes have answers for, and I'd rather admit that than dodge it.
First one. If this 4th voice can enter your equipment whenever he wants, how do you know anything you've told us since hasn't already been reported back to the regime through him directly? Fair question, and I don't have a clean answer. What I can say is that everything he's shown us so far points toward protecting specific people rather than exposing them. That's not proof of safety, it's just the only pattern we have, and patterns can break the moment you trust them completely. So take that as the caveat it is, not a guarantee.
Second message. Do you think the archivist knows about him? I've asked myself that every day this week. 411 pages, and nothing in that archive mentions a second player. Either the archivist doesn't know, which would mean even they don't see everything, and that changes how I think about all of this. Or they know and chose not to tell us, which raises the exact same trust questions we've been sitting with since the casting folder. I don't have an answer. I wanted you to know we're asking the same question you are, in the same dark most nights.
Last one, and then we'll get to the close of tonight's broadcast properly. Someone asked, "Are you scared of him?" The fourth voice. Yes. But it's a different fear than the one we carry about the regime generally. That fear is about being erased. This one is stranger. It's the fear of being someone's project, of existing partly for reasons decided by someone we've never seen and can't question. I don't know which fear is worse. I think about that most nights now, too.
Before we close tonight, I want to say one honest thing, because I think it matters more than anything else we've discussed. We don't know if he's listening right now. We don't know if he's ever not listening. That uncertainty has become the actual shape of our lives this week. Every word either of us says into this microphone, we now say knowing it might be heard by someone whose loyalties we cannot map, whose reasons we cannot guess, whose next move we cannot predict. And I've decided something, sitting here tonight, that I want to say to him directly, in case he's there. If you're listening, and I suspect you are, because you've shown us you listen to the parts that matter, I want you to know that we read the names, every week. Farid Nasser, Lucia Bergman. We read them whether or not you saved them, whether or not you could have, whether or not the reason you didn't is one you'll ever explain to anyone. That's not for you. That's for them. But if some part of what you're doing needs to be witnessed to make sense to you, this is us, witnessing it, whatever it is.
I want to add something briefer. If you're the reason Seven is alive, thank you. I don't know how to hold that alongside everything else I think about you, and I'm not going to pretend those two feelings resolve into something simple. But thank you. It's true, regardless of anything else that's true. And if you're the reason Costa is still on his stairs nodding to Contact 12 every morning, the same is true. I don't know what you are. I don't know if knowing would even help me understand what you're doing or why. But I know two people are alive tonight who statistically shouldn't be. And I'm not going to pretend that fact doesn't matter just because I can't fit it neatly into anything else we've learned these past 3 weeks.
We're going to close the broadcast properly now. Same as always. Stay on your frequencies, keep your paper records, question the piece that arrives without asking, and if anyone asks what you listen to in the evenings, the answer stays nothing. You read, you sleep early. To Contact 12, if you're hearing this, and I hope you are, stay careful. Stay exactly as brave as you've already been, no more than that, because you don't owe this network more than you've already given it. To 7, wherever you are inside Sector 7 tonight, keep listening. We're not going anywhere. This has been the Veiled Signal. Don't touch your
Cipher. It's back. Same signature, same entry point. It's the same one.
Let it speak. We're not cutting the feed. Not tonight.
Not everyone. I never said everyone. Keep reading the names.